Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios was getting tired of everybody just talking about the DCU and Superman. He stepped onto the plate and reminded everyone who's the real head honcho. So that's exactly what I'll be doing here for you guys, is breaking down this huge article Kevin Feige has done with Variety, Collider, several other outlets about the future of the MCU. Tons of crazy details revealed in here, from the MCU getting rebooted, Iron Man and Captain America getting recast, more official details on Spider-Man Brand New Day, and even Sony not letting Marvel use Miles Morales. Really, we're going to be diving into that along with so many other updates in the MCU, but I'm gonna need to hear your guys' opinion on everything I discuss here. There will be timestamps in the description if there's a certain part of the Marvel update you most want to hear about. All I ask of you is to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and well, let's just jump into it. All right, so yes, this literally came out of nowhere, and although I'm joking around that this is Kevin Feige tired of everyone glazing the DC and Superman, I feel like there is a small bit of truth to that, because we have Fantastic Four coming out next week, and really all the conversation online I've been seeing has been about James Gunn's DCU and Superman. And so it feels like everything we're revealing in this article is just to get people buzzing about Marvel, MCU, getting excited for the Fantastic Four and their next big Avenger movies, and this is a perfect example of why DC thriving makes Marvel also thrive. A little good friendly competition goes a long way, but also it doesn't even appear that friendly, because even Kevin Feige's taking small jabs at Jimmy Gunn. Oh snap, is that it? Kevin Feige, Jimmy Gunn? I got my Nicky names down for these guys. First off, we have Kevin Feige giving his review of James Gunn's Superman, where he said, "I liked it a lot. I loved just jumping right into it. You don't know who Mr. Terrific is? Tough. You'll figure it out. This is a fully fleshed out world. David Cornsweet, the new Superman, he was awesome." So it's nice to hear Kevin likes Superman, and he's playing nice with James at first, but then he started, kind of brushing shoulders with Jimmy Gunn. In the article, it mentions how James Gunn has said that the DCU will not greenlight a movie or start a project without a finished script. He says that he's seen that be the cause of a lot of issues, and he was basically talking about Marvel in that instance, and Kevin Feige was not happy with him saying that. In the article, it says here, Feige took issue with both comparisons between Gunn's mandate at DC and Marvel's approach, and the idea that Marvel needs to radically alter how it makes its projects. We've never started a movie without a full script, and I have never been satisfied with a script that we've had, and I've never been satisfied with a movie we've released. And this is Kevin Feige basically saying, I don't know what James Gunn's talking about. We always start a movie with a finished script, but I'm such a perfectionist. I'm constantly changing the script, adding reshoots, doing everything I can up until the movie's released just to perfect it as much as I can. But fans still get worried when even this article let us know that Michael Waldron, who was a writer on Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness and the Loki series, is currently right now helping write the script for Avengers Doomsday, a movie that is currently being filmed right now. And it's that kind of stuff James Gunn wants to avoid. He'd rather have the script already perfect and not something that still needs to be worked on while the movie's being made. But hey, the end results speak for themselves, so we'll wait and see on that. I think the friendly competition is there, and it's nice to see Kevin Feige be friendly to James, but also willing to fight back if he says something he doesn't agree with. This is then where we were given another update on Blade. All you Marvel fans know, Blade has been kind of a nightmare to get off the ground. Announced back at San Diego Comic-Con in 2019, they have been through multiple directors, multiple writers, and Kevin Feige reveals in this article that they finally have settled on an idea, and the thing that was really holding them back is they didn't just want to put him in a leather outfit and have him start killing vampires, essentially saying, we just didn't want the most simplest version of Blade to exist. We wanted to put effort into the story, and although at one point one of the versions of Blade was going to take place in the past, where we found out a costume designer who worked on the movie Sinners, the Ryan Coogler movie, sold all the outfits that were going to be part of Blade to them, meaning Blade was going to be a period piece at one point. The new definitive version that for now Kevin Feige has landed on, Blade will take place in modern day, but I still think this will be a project we won't see until after Avengers Secret Wars and not really in the next 3 or 4 years. And I guess speaking of Secret Wars, let's talk about the big bombshell that Kevin Feige was just dropping and confirming. Kevin Feige kind of gives us a rough outline of what the next 7-year plan for the MCU is going to be, letting us know Avengers Secret Wars, that is going to be coming out after Avengers Doomsday, will indeed be the reboot for the MCU, like a lot of fans have theorized. He starts off by saying Endgame was literally about endings. Secret Wars is about beginnings. Continuing on, reboot is a scary word, he said. Reboot can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. Reset. Singular timeline, we're thinking along those lines. And pausing right there, many comic book fans have theorized this and we have speculated this because just like in the comic books, Secret Wars, at least the most recent interpretation, was used to kind of soft reboot the comics, introduce Miles into the mainstay 616 universe. And with everything that Marvel has kind of been doing these last couple of movies, about to introduce the X-Men, set the Fantastic Four on a different world, it seemed like that's what Kevin Feige was headed towards, and now he's flat out confirmed it. Yes, we are getting a soft reboot, but he likes the term reset. And this way he can explain how the MCU have always existed in the MCU since the beginning. The Fantastic Four are the first family of superheroes in our universe, not set on a different planet. Get rid of story threads or characters that just aren't working right and change them. Like maybe never mentioning the Eternals and changing up the Hulk to a more savage version that fans miss. And in the article, he does also confirm that they will recast a lot of legacy characters, saying here, Feige also indicated that other Marvel characters will eventually be recast, including its most iconic roles like Tony Stark and Steve Rogers. He pointed to many other major film franchises that have done the same thing multiple times over, saying exactly Amy Pascal and David Heyman are now searching for a new James Bond. David Cornsweet, the new Superman, he was awesome. This will always be the case. And look, I know a lot of people are going to be upset by this. I'm already seeing a lot of comments online of it, of people not happy that once this reboot happens, we'll get a new Steve Rogers that isn't Chris Evans, a new Iron Man, but I think it is the smart way to go. Think of how many Batmans we've had, how many Spider-Men. Some, of course, are better than others, but there are also plenty of great interpretations. This is how Marvel can try and tell stories with those characters again without having to spend the millions and millions of dollars it costs to bring back the old actors. You guys have probably seen articles about how much it costs just to bring back Robert Downey Jr. An Iron Man 4 with him would be insanely expensive, and I don't think they'd be really able to earn back their money, especially in an era with superhero movie fatigue. Since this is also a soft reboot, it wouldn't be like the history of that character is completely erased. It would just be a new person continuing that story in this now soft rebooted MCU. So all the adventures we saw don't necessarily go away. That's most likely still the same history for this new Iron Man or Captain America. It'll just be a new face we'll follow along, and I'm okay with that. It's honestly exciting because that means we can get a new Iron Man movie. We can get a new Steve Rogers Captain America film. Makes me wonder what their plans is then with Sam Wilson though. But not everybody is gonna be recast. There was mentions here that Kevin Feige was saying that Chris Hemsworth, he'd probably still play Thor past this reset because he thinks Chris Hemsworth is still in his prime. I also don't imagine they'd replace like Tom Holland's Spider-Man. They would definitely though use this to recast T'Challa and finally bring him back properly into this new MCU. Mark Ruffalo could also possibly stay, although I hope they change a lot of his Smart Hulk persona and just go straight savage again. I don't know. To me, that sounds like great news and is just smart for the MCU. Now that you're having characters like the Fantastic Four and X-Men, I'd like there to be a chance for them to interact with Tony Stark, with a Steve Rogers. However, even though these major characters are being recast, it doesn't look like they will be the focus moving forward in this resetted universe. And before I get onto that, let me touch upon a couple more things that Kevin Feige kind of wants to wrap up about this universe. So, to nobody's surprise, a lot of the post-credit scenes and unfinished stories in the multiverse saga will actually remain unanswered or might never be brought up again. When talking about the post-credit scenes in the multiverse saga that don't have a resolution, he said it's about finding what the right moment is. Some maybe we'll never see again. Some maybe we'll see soon. Some maybe it'll be like Tim Blake Nelson and it'll take 17 years in between. Who knows? Hey, that's the beauty of hitting the reset reboot button. Any loose threads, any post-credit scenes we never finished, hey, it just got wiped away. But if we decide, hey, let's do a Harry Styles movie from Eternals, it could take them 17 years, the same way it took us to get a 17-year conclusion for the leader, Tim Blake Nelson's character from The Incredible Hulk. Only Kevin Feige has that kind of genius. Honestly, to me, I'm thinking 70 to 80% of these unanswered post-credit scenes wiped away. Only a fraction of these will somehow be used or touched upon in this new reset timeline. I mean, even something that I thought was very obviously being set up in the MCU, but now looks like it just might be an afterthought, the Young Avengers. Kevin Feige was asked about when are we seeing the Young Avengers? Are they happening? And he just said, Potentially. In that case, it comes down to where's the best story and where's the best strange alchemy, who would be fun to see with. He even confirms that he thinks Imani Vellani, who plays Miss Marvel, is still one of the best casting choices he has done in the MCU, so she's most likely a face that'll stay post-reset. But this Young Avengers, Feige, if you don't get cracking on something with them, ain't gonna be Young Avengers, it gonna be Unk Avengers. I just don't even think there's much hype in what they've set up with that, and I feel like that could very well be something that just ends up brushed aside post-reset. And one more interesting statement before we look at the future of the MCU post-reset. He did confirm that he thinks there are still possibilities for Deadpool and Wolverine to return for more adventures. He said exactly, I think there is more fun to be had with both those characters, but we'll see where. And that is fascinating to me because I do think Ryan Reynolds would still be here post-reset. I don't think he'd be rebooted, and I do think the rumors of him being more of a featured character in other stories is the best way to go with Deadpool. I don't know if he'll get very many solo adventures, so he could like show up as the guest character in like Spider-Man 6, one of the X-Men movies. He'll just tag along with the group. Yeah, I think Deadpool could be a nice sprinkled in character in a lot of different projects. But like Hugh Jackman Wolverine, I know they made the joke of until he's 90, but the next thing Kevin Feige says about the future of the MCU kind of contradicts. Where does Hugh Jackman come in? Unless he means Wolverine, the character, is still something that he'd like to do within the future of the MCU. Leading me to the future post this reset. So once we get Avengers Secret Wars, the focus of the MCU will then be on the X-Men and the mutants. Although they'll be recasting Iron Man and Captain America, they'll play more background roles and will focus on stories with the X-Men. Going as far as to say that it'll also be a younger, new group of actors portraying these mutants in the MCU. He does finally confirm that Jake Schreier, who did Thunderbolts, will be the director for the first X-Men movie in this new resetted MCU timeline. And I love that. Okay, I was wondering who are going to be the new X-Men. Some people theorized that they were just going to loop in the old 2000s actors and they would be the MCU X-Men. And as much as I love them and I have nostalgia for them, I prefer what some of the later Fox movies did and give us a young Cyclops, a young Jean Grey. I kind of would love to see these X-Men characters grow up in the roles through several movies and not already start them out at 30 or late 20 years old. And it's nice to hear that they'll be new and recast, and it's why I was kind of confused when he said, I think there's more we could do with Hugh Jackman Wolverine. I'm like, well, does that mean Hugh Jackman's staying Wolverine? Because I love him and I do think he's great. I'm open to a new Wolverine, but I guess we'll see what Kevin Feige has in store there. Because I don't think the MCU will make the mistake that the Fox movies did in almost making Wolverine such a main central character. I think they're going to be better about balancing all the mutants and not just having the movies feel like Wolverine featuring the X-Men, you know? But that brings me into the best for last updates on a certain character. Spider-Man. Oh, we got a ton of updates about Spider-Man Brand New Day, full-on confirmations from Kevin Feige, and even some small details that make me so excited. So for one, Kevin Feige flat out 100% confirms, yes, John Bernthal the Punisher will be a featured character in Spider-Man Brand New Day alongside Tom Holland. We already knew that it was official since the trades were actually the ones reporting it, but it's nice to hear it out of Kevin Feige's mouth. He even does go as far as to say he will be tonally different in the Spider-Man movie than he is in his own special and shows, which the special is currently filming right now. That's also kind of a duh, because we did not expect a fully rated R Punisher in Spider-Man, but I do think they're going to push the limits at least a little bit, and I can't wait, because also, finally, 1000% confirmed, it's a street level story, baby. In an interview with Collider, Kevin Feige said, I think there's a promise at the end of No Way Home that for as sad as it is that Peter is forgotten by everyone in his life, we're seeing for the first time in Tom Holland's Spider-Man stories, him being a proper Spider-Man, him being himself, dedicated to saving the city and dealing with, for a lack of better terms, street level crimes as opposed to world-ending events. You can't fight with me no more! Spider-Man MCU stands. Kevin Feige himself, for the first time in 4 movies, Tom Holland will be a proper Spider-Man. Don't fight with me, Homecoming fans. Don't fight with me. As you guys know, here on the channel, I've been a miserable MCU Spider-Man stan where I really do like Tom Holland, and there's bits of his movies I so enjoy, but there are things they have done story-wise with his version of Spider-Man that irks me. That is the common complaints people are sick and tired of hearing about, with the Iron Man Jr. comparisons, the over-reliance on Tony Stark, taking 3 movies to kind of just set him up to be the classic Spider-Man we know. And when Kevin Feige tells you this movie will finally be proper Spider-Man in the MCU, I'm smiling. You can't argue with me, all right? All us Spider-Man fans are that miserable, okay? But it is kind of comforting to hear that the story will be a street level. It won't be a multiverse world-ending event, which I gotta say, only No Way Home was a world-ending event. Homecoming and Far From Home were pretty street level. They had high stakes, but it wasn't like the world was gonna like die if Spider-Man didn't finish his mission. But still, I do think that is the proper way to go back to a Spider-Man story. And he even gives more details here about what director Destin Daniel Cretton is doing, saying, so when do you do that? You say, okay, who are the other street level characters that we've never seen him interact with? And of course, I love that the Punisher starred in Spider-Man comics. Great cover. I don't want to say too much, but Destin, I will say too much. Destin is doing an amazing job right now on that movie, which starts shooting very soon. And he's got 8 or 9 comic covers up on his wall in his art department that he is bringing to life in this movie, which is super cool. Ooh, just hearing that the director has 9 different comic book covers that he is trying to recreate in live action. John Watts did that with a scene in Homecoming that's like one of my favorite shots of that movie. Spider-Man, you know, taking the rubble off himself. That's a recreation from the comics. I love when they can pull off stuff like that. And with the Punisher, I got to imagine it's that original cover with Punisher and Spider-Man. Possibly that one we've talked about where Punisher is carrying a very beaten up Spider-Man. No confirmation on the Hulk being involved, but if he is, I've got to imagine there's like a Hulk and Spider-Man panel somewhere in there. Either way, dude, that's really great to hear, and that sounds so nice for Tom Holland's Spider-Man. But there is another Spidey character we're all curious about. We do get a small update on Miles Morales, and we kind of find out that Sony is not letting the MCU touch Miles Morales until they're done with their Spider-Verse trilogy. Kevin Feige lets us know that until Beyond the Spider-Verse gets released, they are not allowed to do any live-action Miles Morales stuff. And with recently Spider-Verse getting delayed a couple weeks in the year 2027, after that year is when Marvel can finally start implementing Miles Morales. So the soonest we could see him is probably then in Spider-Man 6. If there is some sort of tease in here in Brand New Day, it'll probably be without a reveal of an actor, of a face, and just something small. But I do think that's where they're headed. I think Tom Holland's going to get one more trilogy, and then we're going to have a sort of passing of the torch or him retiring while Miles Morales gets his own trilogy and we follow him, which I don't think is a bad idea. And really, those were the major updates that Kevin Feige has revealed. It's a lot of stuff that for sure excites us, gets us wondering then what is going to be happening. He did mention in these articles he only has 2 years left on his contract with Disney, but he still sees himself at Marvel 10-15 years down the line. And honestly, even with some of the fumbles and missteps Marvel has had, I still think Kevin Feige is the right guy to steer the ship. So hopefully when this contract's up, Disney doesn't want to get rid of him, because although he would want to stay and still be part of it, Disney could say, we want to go a separate way, Feige. So we'll wait and see, but I throw it off to you guys. You hear all these updates. What is your most favorite? What are your theories? Anything, everything. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.